Allow me to get this out of the way first. I freaking love Jurassic Park. The original film had the perfect mixture of adventure, horror, and family entertainment, while also having plenty of moral dilemmas, such as the questionable ethics of creating life with genetics and the delusion of man's power over nature. And it all did it with a charming cast, an unforgettable story, and groundbreaking visual effects that still hold up to this very day. The sequels have garnered mixed to negative reviews, but I still think they're pretty decent for the most part. The Lost World had a tremendous and foreboding atmosphere that had what I thought was a pretty good story to follow up with the original. Well, despite the...
Hey, you!
Jurassic World had an excellent return to form for the series that had an even greater emphasis on the dangers of genetic power. Well, despite the...
What do you think's gonna happen from you just staring at them?
Thanks, man.
And yes, I also enjoyed Jurassic Park 3. I will not doubt that it has a shit ton of issues, but there are still plenty of fun survival horror scenes that kept me entertained. Despite the...
Alan! Alan!
And ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. Every announcement had me giddy like a schoolgirl getting ready for homecoming. They announced that the renowned J.A. Bayona would be directing the film, and that they would be getting fan-favorite dinosaurs that we had been requesting for years, such as Allosaurus and Carnotaurus. They were continually advertising that dinosaurs would escape and ravage the mainland, and they would introduce a new hybrid they were alluding to in the last film. But in the end, the movie was a major disappointment. While it did make a killing at the box office, collecting over $1 billion worldwide, critics weren't too kind to the film, and the fan reaction was mixed at best. I went to see the movie during its opening weekend, and while I did enjoy my initial viewing, my opinion of the film has soured over time. There are good ideas in this movie, but it's all bogged down by so many writing and pacing issues. But I've whined on long enough. Let's take a look at the film proper and see what actually went wrong. This is Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. So the movie opens on Isla Nublar about a year after the Indominus attack, and here we see a pair of men in a mini-sub entering the Mosasaurus Lagoon from a gate that leads in from the ocean? That in and of itself just shouldn't be possible. In the previous film, the lagoon was landlocked in the middle of the island with no bodies of water that were connected to it. And now it's on the south end of the island right next to the coast. We're not even 2 minutes into this movie and already we have a retcon. Anyway, we see the men who are part of the crew tasked with retrieving the DNA sample of the Indominus Rex.
Relax. Anything in here be dead by now.
And of course, the mosasaur devours them. On the land, one of the men decides to close the gates after losing contact with the sub. Little does he know, something is watching him.
I can't reach them! What?
Excuse me, how does he not understand that they're gesturing him to get the hell out of there? Hell, why aren't they using their radio sets to communicate with him? The T-Rex appears out of the brush after a pretty intense build-up and chases the man. Slowly. Okay, first she couldn't catch up with Claire, and now this guy? God, the poor girl's getting old. In the chaos, he drops the device controlling the gate, and the T-Rex crushes it. This somehow prevents the gate from closing and allows the mosasaur to escape. I'm not even going to bother how moronic that is. Fortunately for the man, he makes it to the helicopter just in time. After an impressive opening title card, we cut to 2 years later, as we see a dormant volcano on Isla Nublar called Mount Sibo has become active and will kill off all life on the island. We then transition to a US Senate hearing where the returning Dr. Ian Malcolm testifies for the dinosaurs to meet their demise.
This is a correction.
Are you suggesting the Almighty is taking matters in his own hands?
Senator, with all due respect, God's not part of the equation, no.
And despite being heavily advertised, this is one of only 2 scenes that he appears in. God, what a waste.
Change is like death. You don't know what it looks like until you're standing at the gates.
We now catch up with Claire, whose introduction is actually a pretty clever parallel to her first appearance in Jurassic World. She's currently the leader of the Dinosaur Protection Group, an organization dedicated to spreading awareness about the impending eruption and raising funds for a rescue operation. And this is a pretty good step in the right direction for her character. We've seen her grow empathetic towards the animals after holding the dying Apatosaurus in her arms, so it's understandable that she wouldn't want the rest of the dinosaurs to suffer an even worse fate. Here we also meet two new characters who are working at the organization. Franklin, played by Justice Smith, who's only here because Jake Johnson couldn't reprise his role from the last film, and Zia, a paleo-veterinarian who's actually never operated on or seen a dinosaur before. Isn't that like an ornithologist who's never had hands-on experience with birds? It baffles me that this is even in the movie, considering how easily they could have made her a former vet from the park. Anyway, Claire finds out that her efforts are in vain when the government condones any operations on Nublar.
While, of course, we feel great sympathy for these animals, we cannot condone government involvement on what amounts to a privately owned venture.
Though hope arrives when she receives a phone call from the Lockwood estate. She heads to the Californian estate owned by John Hammond's never-before-mentioned business partner, Benjamin Lockwood, played by James Cromwell. Upon her arrival, she meets Lockwood, his housekeeper Iris, his granddaughter Maisie, and his right-hand man, Eli Mills. Lockwood himself is essentially John Hammond, but lacking any of the charisma or character depth. I'll get into more detail about him and Mills later, but the two men give Claire a rundown of what their plan is.
Protected by natural barriers, fully self-sustaining, a new home where the dinosaurs will be secure and free.
You're gonna get them out? You're gonna save them?
John said it best. These creatures don't need our protection. They need our absence.
We should take Bikini Bottom and push it somewhere else!
Now, a lot of general audiences have actually asked, why not just take the dinosaurs from the island here and put them on Isla Sorna? Well, the viral marketing explains that the island went under the ownership of Masrani Global. After they bought out InGen, they took the remaining dinosaurs off of Isla Sorna and put them onto Isla Nublar to open Jurassic World. Here's my problem with this. You shouldn't relegate story details like this to fill in plot holes into supplementary material. Not only is it lousy storytelling, but it also comes off as lazy on the writer's part for not filling in those details in the main story. Anyway, Mills informs Claire that their top priority in this rescue operation is Blue, as she's the last velociraptor on Earth. He also recommends her to recruit Owen to help out.
We thought you might know someone who could help. Maybe you could convince him.
We meet up with the former animal trainer and find out that he and Claire broke up in between films.
Replay the conversation in your head, alright? You said, you wanna go live in your van like a bum? Go ahead, Owen. And I said, okay.
So how is that you leaving me?
Because I left. I left you.
Because that's totally how we wanted the story to go. I guess Trevorrow was taking notes from Jurassic Park 3. Owen refuses to help out at first, but has a change of heart after watching a video of him training the raptors when they were hatchlings. He joins up with Claire as they board the plane to the island, along with Zia and Franklin, the latter of which I have no clue why he's joining. Zia I can understand because she can help with any injured animals, but Franklin is really unhelpful and reluctant to be here in the first place.
Nervous flyer?
Would you ride a 1,000-pound horse that's been abused all its life?
I rode my motorcycle through the jungle with a pack of raptors.
We're not compatible.
They land and meet Wheatley, a mercenary who's leading the rescue operation, played by Ted Levine.
It rubs the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again.
The group arrives at the facility where Claire reactivates Blue's tracking device. Owen, Zia, and Wheatley then head off to track down the raptor. However, it doesn't take them long to find her, and Owen cautiously attempts to reconnect with her.
That's right. That's right.
But things go south fast as one of the mercenaries fires a dart before Owen signaled to fire, causing Blue to freak out and attack one of the mercenaries.
No, don't shoot her!
This then causes Owen to snap and attack Wheatley, only for him to fire a dart and revealing that the mercenaries are evil. This scene has issues. Firstly, why is Owen's first instinct to go after Wheatley? He clearly heard him say, "Don't shoot," which shows that he has concerns for the raptor's safety. Why isn't checking on Blue's welfare Owen's priority? I mean, I'd understand that he would be angry, but he attempted to assault a man for what might have been a misunderstanding. And two, Zia convinces Wheatley to spare her so she can tend to Blue's gunshot wound. And she leaves a sedated Owen behind! Zia doesn't even attempt to vouch for his safety, she just leaves him in a vulnerable state where he could be devoured by a predator or killed by the eruption.
What a bitch.
How about this?
That animal dies, I shoot you. You're gonna take care of her.
Now that that cat's out of the bag, the mercenaries lock the main entrance to the facility, trapping Claire and Franklin inside while the volcanic activity surges. Back to Owen, he regains consciousness but still has limited control over his body thanks to the tranquilizer. Sinoceratops then walks up to him and licks him? Because comedy? It then runs off as the lava starts to approach them. Despite being close enough to the lava that should kill him, Owen manages to get his body working again and gets away. Back at the facility, Franklin opens a passage to a tunnel system that hopefully will allow them to escape. Unfortunately, it allows a baryonyx to enter the building as the lava begins to pour in through the ceiling. And despite being bombarded with lava which should kill it, it continuously attacks the duo. One particular thing annoying about this scene is Franklin as a character, and his constant, high-pitched screaming. Other than complaining and continuously being paranoid, this is most of his dialogue. And this is a shame because Justice Smith is a really talented actor, and he clearly is doing his best, but the script gives him nothing to work with. Anyway, Claire finds a hatch that leads the two outside to safety. The two then see Owen running towards them, with a stampede of panicked dinosaurs right behind him. The situation becomes more dire as they encounter a Carnotaurus who stopped running from the volcano to attack a Sinoceratops for some reason. In the ensuing fight, the herbivore gets away, but Owen gets accidentally locked out of the gyrosphere and is now out in the open. And as if she was his own personal guardian angel, the T-Rex steps in. This brings me to a complaint I have about the series in general. The dinosaurs are behaving less like animals and more like, well,
genetically engineered theme park monsters, nothing more and nothing less.
Thank you, Dr. Grant. And yeah, it's probably at its worst in this movie. An animal's primary instinct is self-preservation. The fact that the Carno and the Rex, predators that are far more intelligent than their prey, would randomly stop running in a natural disaster while their prey shows more common sense is mind-boggling. And it happens again minutes later when an Allosaurus attempts to kill a Gallimimus while they're both running for their lives. You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of a scene from a documentary called When Dinosaurs Roamed America, where a pack of raptors ignored a rapidly approaching wildfire just so they can eat a kill that they recently made, and were subsequently all burned to death. It was completely idiotic there, and it's just as idiotic here. Claire and Franklin ride away in the gyrosphere, with Owen running not too far behind them as a pyroclastic flow rapidly approaches downhill. Now let's see. Dinosaurs running away from a volcano. I've got the perfect song for this.
Country road, take me home to the days I belong. West Virginia, Mountain Mama, take me home, country road.
Owen gets caught in the cloud of seething ash, and the gyrosphere falls into the ocean. As the glass begins to leak and death seemingly inevitable for the two, Owen jumps into the water and attempts to break them out. Okay, surviving a jump that high into the ocean is one thing, but how the hell did he survive being engulfed by 1,000-degree ash? Have the creative team never heard of Pompeii? Owen pulls out a gun and manages to shoot a hole into the gyrosphere. This is despite the fact that they said it could withstand a .50 caliber bullet in the previous film.
Each vehicle is surrounded by aluminum oxynitride glass. So tough, it can stop a .50 caliber bullet.
Some say that the water pressure might have contributed to it, but I don't think it was deep enough for that to be a case. Anyway, Owen saves them and the group makes it to shore. We then cut to the mercenaries where they have captured more dinosaurs than they planned, including the T-Rex, despite the fact that she was on the other side of the island away from them. We also see Wheatley showing off how cruel he is by ripping out the tooth of a Stegosaurus and adding it to a small collection he has of other dinosaur teeth.
You're gonna feel that when you wake up.
Keep this little scene in the back of your head, it becomes a really stupid plot point later. Claire and the others find a jeep and manage to drive it onto the boat before it departs.
Another happy landing.
And just as the ship sets sail, the volcano erupts, leaving all the dinosaurs to their demise. This scene is beautifully done and had me emotional during my initial viewing, though there's one detail that kinda gives me a sour taste in my mouth. Colin Trevorrow himself mentioned in an interview that the Brachiosaurus was the same one that Alan Grant saw back in the original park. This might seem a little nitpicky, but this rubs me the wrong way. Having it be a Brachiosaurus in general is one thing. It's pretty symbolic having the first dinosaur be the last one we also see on Nublar, but also making it the same individual from the first movie feels like they're really trying to push the emotions. We cut back to Lockwood Manor where we learn that Mills has been behind the whole thing and plans to auction off all the dinosaurs to the black market. He also takes the auctioneer to the basement where they have a genetics lab.
A direct descendant of Henry Wu's masterpiece, the animal that took down Jurassic World.
The Indominus was lucky! If the crew didn't panic and use its tracker before checking the paddock, it wouldn't have escaped. And this isn't even taking into account the pterosaurs that it inadvertently let loose.
Every bone and muscle designed for hunting and killing, and thanks to Owen Grady's research, it follows human command.
This is despite the fact that in Jurassic World, the raptors barely listened to Owen and nearly killed him on several occasions. Maisie overhears Eli's plans to sell the dinosaurs off and goes to tell her grandfather, only to have him brush it off until morning.
Go to bed.
Good night.
Good night, my heart.
Back on the ship, the group manages to locate Sia, who's operating on Blue. She tells them that Blue needs a blood transfusion to survive, and will need blood from a theropod that has at least 2 to 3 fingers. And the dinosaur they choose? The T-Rex. So where do I begin? I'm aware that cross-species blood transfusions exist, but why on God's green earth is the most dangerous creature on the boat their first choice? There are other species on the ship that are less dangerous. And do you know which dinosaur that would be? No, I'm serious. Guess. I'll give you a second. You there, kid. What's your answer?
Gallimimus.
This kid is smarter than the writers! Not only is the Gallimimus a herbivore, but it's also more closely related to the Velociraptor, thus making it a safer and superior donor. Also, question about the T-Rex, how would they even know if the two blood types are compatible? They would at least need to take a blood test to make sure both animals had the same blood type to make sure that it was going to be safe. Long story short, they get the blood and Zia performs the surgery on Blue without any anesthetic, but she'll live.
I'm getting better! No, you're not. You'll be stone dead in a moment.
Back at Lockwood Manor, Maisie puts in the passcode to the elevator, despite her being halfway across the room when they punched it in the first time, and heads down to the lab to investigate. She then hides as we hear Mills arguing with Dr. Wu about Blue being shot.
I didn't shoot the damn thing. What do you want me to do, huh? You don't have the faintest comprehension of what I'm doing here.
Here's a good question. Why the hell is Dr. Wu here? He's one of the top geneticists on the planet. Genetic companies from around the world would kill to have the former lead scientist of Jurassic World on their staff. He should be working for Biosyn, not black market dealings. We then learn why Blue is so vital to the operation.
Needs to form a familial bond with a closely related genetic link.
English, Henry.
It needs a mother!
That's right. Wu wants to use Blue's DNA for the next generation of hybrids, so they'll see her as a mother figure and learn to be obedient. You know, Dr. Wu, for being one of the world's leading geneticists, you're a fucking moron.
You are the dumbest smart person I have ever met in my life.
First off, compliance isn't a thing that can just be coded into something's DNA. It took generations for humans to domesticate dogs, constant breeding until the animals learned how to follow commands properly. Part of it comes from their environment, where they're continually getting adequate treatment and are rewarded for following said commands. And with a situation when you have people like these, how well do you think they're going to be treated? Hell, either the hybrids will likely kill each other, or Blue will kill them due to the stress that they're being put under. Speaking of Blue, she isn't exactly a great specimen to look at. Not only did she try to kill Owen numerous times in the previous film, but quickly accepted the Indominus as her new alpha and turned on him. This isn't even mentioning this line from Jurassic World.
Put 12 ants in these animals, they're never gonna trust me again.
2 hours later.
Do you think she'll let anyone near her, let alone follow any commands after all of that? One last point for this scene I want to make. We saw Dr. Wu get away with God knows how many embryos from the end of Jurassic World. And you're telling me he never had a backup one for the Indominus in case it died? Hammond had a backup embryo for literally every dinosaur species on the island. And Wu never had a spare one for his potential moneymaker? What the hell is wrong with you?
You stupid, ignorant son of a bitch, dumb bastard! Jesus Christ, I've met some dumb bastards in my time, but you outdo them all. Get over there!
Back on track, Maisie briefly encounters the Frankensteinosaurus and gets caught by Mills. He then locks her in a room and tells Iris to keep her in there. Why? You're not in charge of her! Iris tells Mills that Lockwood wants to see him immediately. Also take note that Mills puts the key to the room in his pocket. The ship finally makes landfall and starts taking the dinosaurs to the mansion. Owen and Claire attempt to head to the nearest town in order to contact the authorities, but they're quickly caught. Back to Lockwood, he confronts Mill about the whole situation, and he orders Mill to report himself to the police.
Pick up that phone. I want you to call the police. It'll be easier if the story comes from you.
Of course, the old man literally can't do anything to him at this point, so Mills murders him.
You, sir, are an idiot.
Owen and Claire get thrown into a holding cell among the other dinosaurs, and Mills arrives to gloat about his plan for a bit. And instead of having them killed on the spot, he tries to guilt trip Claire by saying that she's no better than him because they both exploited the animals, with her even authorizing the Indominus Rex's creation and making money off of caged animals.
but we both exploited these animals. At least I have the integrity to admit it.
I never, ever did
You
anything
authorized the
remotely
creation of the
illegal.
Indominus Rex.
You exploited a living thing in a cage for money.
Do I even need to explain why this is an incredibly weak argument? Both she and Masrani had no idea that the Indominus was secretly a prototype bioweapon, and the only reason it escaped was through what I guess McGonagall would call
sheer dumb luck.
And as for the whole cage thing, bullshit! All of the animals in the park lived in relative comfort. You, on the other hand, are selling the animals to be killed by game hunters, experimented on, and used as weapons. At least with Claire, she didn't commit fucking murder! And that's what bugs me about Mills as an antagonist. He has little to no reasoning or argument for anything that he does. You could say that he's doing it for the money, but he already has an incredibly well-paid job, and would have been heir to the estate, thus settling him for life. He's just a really shallow character with little personality, and is just evil for the sake of your usual capitalism is evil shtick. What gets me more is the missed opportunity we have here. And I know this is going to be a kind of controversial opinion here, but Lockwood should have been the villain. Hear me out on this. Lockwood and Hammond had a fallout due to something that Lockwood did. I won't say what it is at the moment, but let's just say that it's something pretty personal. I think it would be much more interesting if Lockwood was the man behind the scenes pulling the strings. He could have been bitter towards John Hammond for cutting him out of their partnership, and the whole rescue facade would have been to regain what he thought was rightfully his. He would have been the dark reflection of what John Hammond himself was, something similar to his counterpart from the original Jurassic Park novel. Anyway, we cut back to Maisie, who managed to get the key from the other side of the door, even though we clearly saw Mills put it in his pocket! I mean, how the hell did they miss such a massive oversight in the editing bay? And why is my face so cold? Anyway, she climbs across the roof because reasons, and finds out about her grandfather's death. Meanwhile, Owen and Claire find out they have a very grumpy neighbor in the next cell over, in the form of a Stygimoloch. Owen quickly learns that the sound of whistling agitates it, and uses that to his advantage, and breaks them out. Wait, if a dinosaur that small can break through the walls, why haven't the other dinosaurs done that? They spot Maisie and learn about Lockwood's death. She leads them to the auction room where the dinosaurs are being sold off. For incredibly cheap. $10 million for an ankylosaur? $15 million for a juvenile Allosaurus? Are you kidding me? The skeleton of Sue the T-Rex was sold for over $8.5 million. These clowns clearly don't know how much these animals are worth, considering that the total profits made from the auction are just a mere fraction of Fallen Kingdom's global box office. If anything, they lost money on this little venture of theirs. The finale of the auction has the new hybrid revealed to the crowd, the Indoraptor. And if I have to say anything here, I freaking love its design. It's the perfect contrast to the Indominus. Not only is its base genome a raptor instead of a T-Rex, but it also has black skin to juxtapose the I-Rex's albinism. And now let's get disappointed to just see how this thing works.
And trained to respond to a pulse-coded laser targeting system. Now first, the laser sets the target. Once locked on, the acoustic signal triggers the attack.
So let me get this straight. You take a gun, you aim it at a target, you pull the trigger, and the target dies. Why not just use a sniper rifle? You took all of Owen's training data and this is the best you could come up with? You have to be fucking kidding me! This isn't a training application, this is having a cat chase a laser pointer! There are so many better ways of having it follow basic commands! Just give it an inhibitor chip that sends several different frequencies to his brain, with each frequency representing a single command, almost like the clone troopers from Star Wars: The Clone Wars. And that was at the top of my head! So the crowd starts bidding on the Indoraptor, to Wu's dismay, not only because it's an unstable prototype, which makes me wonder why he didn't mention that in the first place, but because the person who will buy it will find a way to profit off of it. But Mills decides to sell it anyway because he likes shooting himself in the foot. While attempting to sabotage the auction, Owen crosses paths with the Stigi Moloch again, and lets it into the crowd and unleashes hell. And admittedly, this scene is pretty funny. After everyone runs off, Wheatley enters the room and doesn't know what the Indoraptor is. Your primary mission on Nublar was to retrieve Blue and use her DNA for the next generation of Indoraptors. How do you not know about this? Alright, so get this. He shoots the hybrid with some tranquilizers and enters the cage while leaving the door completely wide open to pull one of its teeth. This absolute moron is risking his own life and the lives of others just to satisfy his tooth collecting fetish. And guess what? The Indoraptor is pretending to be sedated, and even giving a cheeky smile to the camera.
Me, what's up, Doc?
After it kills Wheatley in a admittedly pretty brutal and impressive death scene, followed by the auctioneer in a lackluster comedic death. Seriously, they were hiding in an elevator the whole time and never thought of pressing the button? Owen, Claire, and Maisie are about to take their leave when they're confronted by Mills and a pair of goons who want to take Maisie away because... I have no fucking clue! Mills, however, decides to drop a bombshell and reveal why Hammond split with Lockwood all those years ago.
What do you think drove Hammond and Lockwood apart? Huh? Lockwood never had a grandchild. He just wanted his daughter back. And he had the technology. He created another.
While this was cleverly foreshadowed throughout the film, I still have issues. Firstly, when was Maisie cloned? It couldn't have been around the time Hammond and Lockwood broke off because she would have been so much older at this point. Second, how was Mills expecting Owen and Claire to react? To be terrified of her? To be disgusted? Sure, human cloning is kind of a taboo concept, but she's still a child. I doubt they'll give her away because of the circumstances of her birth. The only reason the scene is here is to spell out to the audience that hasn't caught on and justify a really, really dumb decision at the end of the film. Back at the lab, Dr. Wu is once again preparing to leave now that everything has gone south, but wants to take a blood sample of Blue before he heads out. He'll need some help and gets assistance from... Franklin? Oh, yeah, I didn't mention this, but earlier in the film, Franklin is mistaken for a crew member on the docks and is forced to do some manual labor. And now he's at the lab being mistaken for a scientist. How did he even get to this point? Can someone just please connect the dots for me somewhere? Wu is about to collect his sample when Zia informs him that Blue's blood is no longer viable for genetic tinkering because of her transfusion. Franklin stabs Wu with a sedative, the only useful thing he does in the movie, and Zia frees Blue, who attacks some mercenaries. You know, for a dinosaur who got shot point blank in the chest a day ago, she seems pretty lively. I would also like to mention that Dr. Wu mentions the name of the sedative is carfentanil, a substance that is 100 times more potent than morphine. So both Dr. Wu and Owen should be dead.
D-E-D. Dead.
Their skirmish results in a gas leak that causes a massive explosion and destroys the lab. And yeah, Blue is running away from the blast. We've now dropped all pretenses, folks. Blue is now an action movie star. Back to Claire and the gang, they enter the display room where they're being stalked by the Indoraptor. You know, in the tie-in promotional material, they bragged about how excellent its tracking capabilities are because it has night vision and echolocation. But from everything shown so far in the movie, it kinda sucks at it. It has night vision, and yet it can't see them through the display case.
This is intolerable!
Meanwhile, Franklin and Zia discover that the ventilation system has malfunctioned, and the gas leak is seeping into the dinosaurs' holding cells. So they reboot the mansion's power and, consequently, screw the gang over. Now let's see, where have I seen this scene before?
1, 2.
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
Now that their cover is blown, the Indoraptor attacks. Claire and Owen tell Maisie to run, and she manages to avoid the hybrid and escape to her room. Owen and Claire patch up their relationship issues that had little to no screen time or relevance for the story, and they head off to find Maisie. She hides beneath her blankets, because that's always a great place to hide from a goddamn monster. But it's seemingly futile as the hybrid approaches. Why is it moving so goddamn slowly? Just eat her already! 1 minute it's sprinting towards her in a reckless pursuit. Now it's just taking its sweet-ass time for the sake of a trailer shot. Owen enters into the room, guns blazing, but the bullets do little to damage the monster. Thankfully, Blue arrives, though, to protect them, in a very underwhelming battle. So, Owen and Maisie make their way onto the roof, where the Indoraptor follows. Claire tries to use the gun from earlier to trick the hybrid into breaking the glass beneath and fall through the roof. Of course that doesn't work, but Blue arrives in time to save them all. The Indoraptor falls and lands on a conveniently placed Triceratops skull.
Fatality.
The gang regroups with Zia and Franklin, who update the situation. Claire is left to make a difficult decision. Either let the dinosaurs out of the building and put God knows how many people in danger, or let the dinosaurs all die off. And in a surprising turn, she decides to leave them to their fate. You know, Claire, I believe you've really made the right choice here. Not just for restoring the natural order, but for the fate of the dinosaurs themselves. They would have been exposed to an environment that's utterly alien to them. There are chances that they would eat the plant material that could be toxic to them, they could catch diseases that they aren't used to, and they run the...
I had to.
What?
They're alive. Like me.
Are you kidding me? Maisie, you just unleashed some of the most dangerous animals on the planet onto US soil! Not only are you risking countless human lives, but the lives of the dinosaurs themselves! As soon as the media catches wind of this and perceives these animals as threats, there will be government forces and groups of civilians who will go out and kill them! Even if she didn't know she put the lives of the dinosaurs at risk, what is her reasoning for this decision?
They're alive. Like me.
Maisie, do you know who won't be alive after this? The countless civilians you just practically murdered!
This is intolerable!
So, the dinosaurs rush outside and enter the wilds. The T-Rex kills Eli and crushes the Indominus sample, therefore preventing any more hybrids from being made. You know, the T-Rex in this film honestly feels more like a Deus Ex Machina rather than a legit animal. Need something to save you from the charging Carnotaurus? T-Rex! Need a blood donor for a dying Velociraptor? T-Rex! Need somebody to kill a half-baked villain to prevent any more hybrids from appearing in this goddamn movie? Fucking T-Rex! So Blue decides to leave Owen so she can live out in the wild. Owen and Claire take Maisie and presumably adopt her. I would more rather say kidnap, but who cares? And the movie ends with Ian Malcolm narrating over a montage of dinosaurs approaching civilization, setting up a sequel that has definitely a lot of promise, but cost me my brain cells in the process.
Welcome to Jurassic World.
He said it! He said it!
And that was Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. What the hell happened? While it has many fresh ideas and the effects are top notch, it makes so many missteps. The pacing is rushed, preventing any of the action set pieces to really set in with you. The tone feels conflicting, with part of it wanting to be a summer popcorn flick and part of it wanting to be a claustrophobic horror film. Most of the characters are just flat out moronic, always making rash decisions and often not thinking anything through. The dinosaurs' behavior is sporadic, ranging from somewhat neutral to monstrous to overly cartoony and just being there for a cameo. This all piles up to one colossal mess 65 million years in the making. If you enjoy it, I won't hold it against you, but in the end, I gotta say,
that is one big pile of shit.
Well, that about wraps everything up. Tune in next time, guys, where we'll be trying to go fast and get some chili dogs. And maybe we'll see Jim Carrey along the way. He'll be fun. I'll see you guys next time.
Oh no! Dun 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 dun. Na 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 na.